Hey, so we're back again. It's the talk show, part 2. We discuss race, racism, intra-community, racial prejudice. So before we broke, or before in part 1, we outlined the problem. There was the comments from Sheikh Nur discussing racism and suggesting that no point as Muslims discussing what's going on in the wider society. There's no point in discussing and condemning the killing of George Floyd if the internal racism in the Muslim community is not addressed. It's a waste of time. Then there was some feedback from some members of the community, from different sections of the community, suggesting that while Sheikh Nur had a point, they felt slighted or felt that it was possibly a tad too hard. We want to look at that, some solutions, some real solutions, not sound bites, not quotes, not just quoting hadith about the misunderstanding between Bilal radiallahu anha and Abu Zar radiallahu anha, but some real solutions going forward. I want to start off this segment with Brother Simon telling us your perspective, your analysis of how we can move things forward.
Assalamu alaikum. Yeah, dealing with racism feels like a big job, doesn't it? You know, how can we stop police brutality in the US? Well, we can't. What we can do is start by little steps, I think. And one thing we need to sort of consider is education, about making people aware of the history of oppression of black people, and doing our bit to remove what I described in part 1 as these sort of shibboleths, and to treat racists or people with prejudices as like children, basically, and removing these comfort blankets as I described them in part 1. Before we launched on this, I was speaking to Brother Ghulam about a film I'd watched recently called Goodbye Uncle Tom. I don't know if any of the others have seen it, but it's
very serious. That is a very, very serious film, man.
It's a fictional documentary by 2 Italian filmmakers who went to Haiti in the 1970s to chart and describe some of the hideous brutalities suffered by people during the slave trade. And it's basically set pre the Civil War. But to cut a long story short, what was interesting about it is the fact that nobody's heard of it, nobody knows about the film. But it's the most remarkable film I've ever seen about the slave trade and about what happened to people in the US on the plantations. And what's interesting about the criticism of the film at the time is it's this sort of paternalistic and neo sort of liberal attitude that, well, God, how dare they treat the Haitian people like this, and taking these. Stripping them and making them dance around like that, as though they didn't have minds of their own to make these decisions about whether they wanted to be in the film.
So it's almost patronising and not acknowledging the Haitian people's agency to take part in a project like that, essentially.
What I'm saying is that it wasn't a sort of a right-wing push against the film. It was like sort of a libertarian, paternalistic way.
Yeah. Left-wing nanny state. Okay, Let me just jump in there. Thanks for that, Simon. You've started off the solutions. Ridwan, do you agree, disagree, or would like to add on your own in terms of what Brother Simon's had to say?
Okay, I'll give my tuppence worth as well. Yeah, I think key is education, especially the preachers from the pulpit who have a great influence in time of Muharram. They need to actually now move in to the 21st century. And they need to conceptualize, not just talk about Islamic ideas without offering solutions to everyday issues of racial prejudice, cultural prejudices, and other prejudices that are in our communities. And I think this is one of the key platforms, at least within the Shia Muslim community. It's an annual platform, and there should be a drive to try to...
So you say the ulama, but if I understand Sheikh Nur correctly, he's saying that this racial prejudice, this ethnocentric bias, it goes all the way up to the ulama. So the question is, Are they in this area? Are they fit for purpose? We know they're fit for purpose in terms of the sciences, in terms of tafsir, in terms of history, in terms of the
I
spiritual,
think we,
in terms of their own racism.
Yeah. First of all, we need to be careful of generalization, because obviously even within the ulama, there are ulama with different qualifications, with different aptitudes. So we should be careful to not sort of generalize them in as a single group of people or with fixed ideas about things.
So when I ask the question, are they fit for purpose? Am I in order?
I think some are and
generalization
some
or generalization not? Are they as a class, as a clerical class?
I think
it's a general trend towards non-racism.
I think
racism, a general trend.
Yeah. Some are and some aren't. That's my opinion. Yeah, and I think a lot of the younger ones, they are actually aware of many of these issues, and they are doing what they can to tackle. But obviously, institutions that have been established for hundreds of years, like the houses in Najaf or the Qum, plus these institutions have also suffered persecution historically. So those institutions are obviously going to take time to reform. And I think there are people within those institutions who are doing their best, especially like in Iran after the revolution. There have been many changes. So those changes are important. Plus the fact that there are now, I think I was reading somewhere, there's so many people coming from all over the world, different parts of the world. There is a very large, for instance, there's a large number of Chinese students who are studying in the Hausa in Qum. And there are large numbers studying from the various parts of Africa. So I think all that is eventually likely to feed back and bring about changes. So changes, change is the very nature of things anyhow.
So let me jump in there. You've just said change. Yes. Hold a pin, hold your point. Brother Ghulam, what say you? Racial prejudice, racial bias, ethnocentrism. We're looking for solutions. Talk to us.
And in terms of solutions, again, I would like to pick up and support what the brothers have already said. I think these are essential, they're needed, and we need them yesterday, not today. We need them yesterday, we need them years ago. But just to jump on it, I think that first of all, it needs to be about education. So we've got to now, I think these existing Sheikh communities now need to bring in people like myself, like you, like Brother Simon, like Brother Rizwan, to form a consultancy agency in which we go into all the masjids, all the existing Shiite mosques, in particular Shiites. We mean Muslims generally, but we're talking about Shiites here. Go into these mosques and as a consultant, sit with us and be absolutely honest, yeah? Put it all out on the table, yeah? Speak. We should be able to speak openly and sincerely, as honestly as those who want to see the change. Don't worry about offending the feelings and the peccadillos of the existing mosque committee, and they should not be upset about offending our feelings. We put it all out on the table, we speak the truth, and we tell them that we believe that these are the way forwards. So I believe in terms of education, if I have a chance to sit down with them, just me, for example, not anybody else, and they ask me, Brother Solomon, what do you think we should be doing? I would say, first of all, look at the education, look at the Islamic history you're being taught. The Islamic history that you're being taught, which has portrayed the Imams as white and pale or looking like Iranians or Pakistanis or Khoja, is a lie and it's wrong. The paintings that you have, the pictures that you have, pull them all down and destroy them. The Imams were of African ancestry, they were of African, Afro-Arabian history, interbred with Sudanese women. The Imam Mahdi alayhi salam himself is of Nubian stock because his mom is of Nubian heritage, yeah? The idea that his mom was of, what is it supposed to be, European?
Well, a Roman princess.
Roman is a lie. We all know that. Even Imam...
Brother Ghulam, I must hurry you. Brother Ghulam, I must hurry you.
Imam Al-Qur himself said this is a lie. Anyway.
Brilliant point.
So the point is, history has been whitened. That has to be removed. They've got to bring us into their committees now. No more ethnocentric committees, particularly in the Khoja community or the riveting community. They've got to bring in people of different hues and different cultures and really reflect Islam in this country. So if it's an Islamic England,
let me jump in. Stick a pin. So you're talking about a diversity within the management committee, within the committees of these organizations. So let me put this out to you. Let me just double check something with you. You're saying education, but education can just be words, lectures. I know that you have some qualifications in counseling. Do you think that how counselors are trained in terms of racial awareness and in terms of unconscious bias? Do you think workshops and seminars, interactive learning, where people have to discuss, not just to be lectured to as in education, but interaction and exercises?
Yeah, that's what I was going to go on to go. I was going to mention social events where you are doing counseling, experiential workshops.
Experiential
workshops where you're looking at the psychology of racism, inner racism,
there you go.
Racism, and and then you're working youth workshops, oriented workshops. Your workshops where you get people from the community to work with the wider community. So you're actually bringing in people together. You're bringing the community together, and you have a committee or as a consultancy, group of consultancy people again who reflect the community, who actually are able to feed back to the mosques, to the centers, to the imam boroughs, and say to them, look, this is what's needed. Because if you're going to be called the Islamic Center of England or Islamic Center of this, you have to reflect England as England is. You have
to reflect England. Let me jump in there. You have to reflect England. Brother Simon, are they ready for this? Is this potential? Is this pipe dream? Is this realistic?
Ooh, as I said at the beginning,
would there be pushback?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, I think you've got to point out the blinding obvious. I mean, start with small steps. I mean, I go back to the anecdote about Bilal. I mean, it's, wheeled out whenever somebody wants to feel better about their prejudices. But just ask them, well, why do you say that every time a racial issue is mentioned? Does that mean that Bilal was shoved in the minaret where he couldn't be seen? Is that what you're seriously saying?
Oh, Malcolm X, those were like Malcolm X too.
Yeah. So what's the relevance of him calling the adhan? Why is that important?
And bravo, he can sing. Black folks can sing.
Yeah, but he couldn't be seen. Shove him up in a tower where nobody would see him. Is that what you're seriously saying the Prophet did? Get people to ask questions and analyze what the prejudice.
Analysis. Brother Rizwan, you're sitting there pensively, and I am wondering what you're thinking about this feedback. Please share.
Well, I think education, consciousness, awareness raising, interactive seminars, all these are very, very important because as you say, you have to prepare the ground. Unless you prepare the grounds, then the soil will not be fertile to give you the desired growth. What we are seeking is inclusive communities.
Inclusivity. I like that term.
Inclusive communities in the vision of the Medina model that the Prophet demonstrated to us.
You've articulated about the Medinite model.
That's right. Yes,
how ready is the community for that? How do we handle the potential pushback, would you say?
Well, I think we need to work on every level every channel, every level that we have. But what is important is that which is very, very important, is not to destroy what we already have, the platforms we already have, because we are a minority of a minority of a minority, and we are suffering multiple levels of disadvantage and discrimination in Britain and in the Western world. So we have to be careful that in order to try to bring about reform within our communities, we do not throw the baby out with the bathwater. And that is important.
Important point. So, Brother Ghulam, I'm going to ask you about that. I want you to comment directly to that. Are we trying to avoid decimating what already exists and we building on it? I think were the lessons destroy and build, or build and destroy. So, what's your thoughts?
I think it's important again for us not to modicum. And I think Brother Rizwan, I love him. I love you, Brother Rizwan, and I know that we go back over 30 years. But I still feel I don't know. Maybe I detect a feeling that maybe you're perhaps sort of mollycoddling the issue a little bit here. I think that, you know, we can't afford the apologist type term at this moment. First of all, a man has died, has lost his life. This, we have to remember this, keep this in mind. He was judiciously executed publicly. The judge and jury was executed on him. And it was basically because of the fact there was a subconscious racism, whatever you want to call it, premeditated, whatever's going on in this human being, the other human being that killed another human being, it's ignorance, it's prejudice. And I believe that because we saw the actual action of it, doesn't deleteriously remove the damage that it caused in terms of what we're facing. And I feel that even though I went to the, for example, I'm using the Khoja Mosque, and I'm not singling them out, but I know I've been to the Khoja community with Brother Rizwan over 35 years ago, 1985, whatever it was. I can actually best be one of the ones to say, have I seen change? And I've seen what it's about. And I've seen the exclusivity in there. I've seen that in terms of crisis or in terms of certain issues, they become more insular and not much. And sometimes they put on these little fringe kind of like, you know, decorations, but you're not dealing with the actual problem. You're not going to the root cause of it. And I think
you're not going to the root. You're not going to the root. Yeah. Ghulam, let me just jump in. Ridwan, please respond.
I think that, well, I mean, what is the root cause of the problem? What is at the heart of it?
That black people, black Muslims, Shiite Muslims who go to the center feel excluded. As many times people have brought sisters, for example, and the sisters in the community rooms won't speak to those sisters. They'll sit there staring at them. The sisters are made to feel uncomfortable. No one goes over to them and says, how are you, sister? MashaAllah, good to meet you. So the sisters feel alienated, and then the sisters walk out. And if there's a program on, for example, the sister's been out there for the whole 2 hours waiting outside. And this could just be a person who's come to just find out about Islam or whatever. There seems to be no acceptance in a way of...
Go on, please let Rizwan speak to those comments.
Yeah, I mean, it's very... obviously, there are always individual incidents that happen, and one doesn't know...
So what are you going to take responsibility for the community with them? Why is it always individual? So the same with the police. There's one or two bad cops. It's not one or two bad cops.
Go on. Please allow Brother Rizwan to build his argument, please.
Yeah. Right. Okay. I mean... Well, the reason what I'm saying that, first of all, none of, as far as I'm aware, all the Khoja centers, and indeed all the Shia centers, they are open to a person of any race or any culture. There's never been, I've not seen a single mosque that says, oh, only Iranians are allowed to come here, or only Khojas are allowed to come. They're open to everyone.
Missing the point, though, Aki.
So in that sense, you can't say that the institution as such is racist in that sense. However, obviously, because obviously those centers might be frequented or they were instituted by particular communities, so they obviously operate within certain cultural norms, and that is my point. Is how to
Brother Rizwan, you are not a non-Khoja. So in a way, you're kind of part of the problem, because not disrespect to you, but you are not experiencing it. So you can't slight my experience, can you?
Brother Rizwan, put a pause. Brother Ghulam, put a pause. Brother Simon, let me ask you a question. I've got to bring you in there. I see you smiling. So there's an argument, right, that racism or prejudice is institutional if it's written on the wall that people of a certain ethnicity are not allowed. But let's push the envelope up a bit further. If it's pushed, if there is a diswelcoming, people are disinvited, people feel excluded, but the leadership are unaware or unable to address this, is that a form of institutional racism to you, Brother Simon?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's obviously nobody in the right mind would ever say Iranians and or Kurds.
You hold your head. You hold your head. You hold your head.
Like no Irish. What's the no Irish, no blacks, no dogs allowed in the news ages of the 60s. The point is, the point I just want to stress and hammer away at is racism is very subtle and discreet, and it's just the way that things are set up.
Exactly.
And you know, and Brother Ghulam, you alighted on the problem earlier. If there was, you know, if you open the discussions up, so you, for example, if you had a talk about, you know, let's discuss the colour of the imams, what racial background were the imams, let's have a real discussion about that. Then
Holy smoke! You're not going there, have you?
well, at least discussing, because you know you hear about 1,000 different opinions and different people, because the whole thing has been blown out of the water as more research has been done. So if a Khoja community or whatever sets up a talk along those lines, then obviously it's going to be more inclusive by the nature of the instead of having, you know, how do we you know, who's the right person to marry, and you know, marriage counselling, it's sort of inbred and it becomes very incestuous. But if you have topics which address serious issues that are relevant and pertinent and by their very definition.
Well, that might be a topic for, just to jump in, that might be a topic for the future. I think there'll be a hot time in the old town if you want to go to a Shia mosque center and discuss the racial ethnicities of the imams, because I remember that.
To my knowledge, that has never been a topic on any...
Dr. Amina Indos put out a paper about Black John, and she did cover that topic as a side issue.
Can I just...
and she was lambasted, she was roasted, she was excoriated by the mainstream Shia community. I think one of the duos that was made against it was, "May you be cursed like none other than Allah's creation." Brother Rizwan, you have something to say?
Wow, I've not heard that one.
Brother Rizwan, come in.
Brother Rizwan, your mic, you've muted yourself.
You've muted yourself.
You muted yourself. Your mic.
Brother Rizwan, your microphone.
Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you. I can't see you, but we can hear you.
Okay, let me get... okay, now you can see.
Hey, he's back.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you've seen that we have had an evolution in the type of speakers we get. For instance, in Hyderabad, when I remember in the 80s, the 90s, we only had speakers who could speak Urdu or our languages, and there were no English lectures at all. And the preachers were exclusively from Indian subcontinent. But you know, now we have somebody like Sayyid Ammar Nakshwani. You know, he's of Arab heritage, Arab background, and he gives his, he's a youngish scholar, and he gives his speeches in English, which makes it accessible to all the different communities that live in South London. So I think we have to celebrate the changes that the communities have made, and we jointly, and this is very important, all of us have to work together without undermining our achievements to achieve better outcomes.
We have to work together. Ghulam, say something to me. Say something.
Brother Rizwan, again.
Talk to us.
I love you as my brother, and I'm speaking to you as a love for your brother, but that change in the speaking the khutbas and the majlis in English and not Gujarati, that came about because we in the organization we had Islamic Action, we boycotted Hijri, and we boycotted the Jummas the meetings until we demanded they speak in English. I used to sit there with you, and I would turn to you and say, what are they saying? Asking for translations. And it was sickening, it was embarrassing to see all these black brothers and sisters and white brothers and sisters sitting there, and this man's looking at the audience, and he sees the mixture, and he's speaking purely in Gujarat for the whole meeting. So we're going to boycott this until it happens. So these changes didn't come about from the goodness of your heart necessarily. It's because pressure was put to bear for you by the so-called revert community that said this enough is enough. You need to make this more exclusive. So please don't make it as if it was the goodness of your heart necessarily. It was because pressure was made to bear. Even on your interfaith things that you do, it's because there was a need in the community. You have to go and do that. It wasn't on the good will.
Ghulam. Stick a pin. Brilliant point. I've got to hear from Brother Rizwan. Please give us a response.
Well, my response is that obviously changes only come about when the community or the person sees the need for those changes to happen. And the pressures, they are all part of those exercises to raise awareness and to inform people better. We need better quality preachers. That would go a long way to change things. But what I want to emphasize, which is the key point, is that engagement is very, very necessary. I mean, there is a prophetic tradition which says the person.
Why am I not on the committee, though, Akidem? Why am I not on the committee?
One second, Gulam. One second,
Why am I not
Gulam.
on the Khoja Committee? And I've been going to that mosque since 1984, 85. Why am I not? Why not just me? Not just me, Stockfella. Why is not anybody non-Khoja on that committee?
Yeah, but that you have to ask those who are in charge, because obviously I'm not a committee member.
Talked about individuals make changes.
Gulam. To be fair, brother Rizwan is not here in an official capacity, but what you've done is you've triggered something where maybe we need to invite somebody who is in official capacity to have that kind of conversation.
Yes, I think that is very important. That we need to
maybe the next stage
to have a dialogue.
I don't think him off the hook.
As Simon has put it,
Can I just say, the brother just said, excuse me, the brother just said that changes came with individuals, made changes, and it affected the wider community. He's an individual in that community. So if he's talking about individual power, why are we going to give it to someone else? If I see racism, we talked about this earlier. For example, if I see someone being racist, and I've got to stop them. I can't think, if I'm a father and I see another child being racist, I've got to step in if it's my child. I can't think, well, let someone else do it. My point of the matter is, that's the problem with us. We want to let us off the hook. We have individual power. If you're a scholar and I read you a hadith that's in your books, and you're in a madrasa, and you're being taught this hadith from this book, it's no good to say, well, the Quran is against it. Stand up and speak and say, this is disgusting. Why is it in this book? It needs to be removed. We shouldn't be teaching this anymore. But to simply go, well, it's there, let's leave it there, then you're complicit by your silence.
Complicit. What I'm not going to do is be complicit in letting this discussion get out of hand in the terms of the timing that we want to close with some solutions. But those are very interesting key points that you've both raised. Robert Simon, we're running out of time, but we need a takeaway message from yourself. Can you be very brief, because I have to be very rigorous with the time?
Well, as I say, it seems to be skating around the issue. It'd be very easy in any masjid, in any program, just have 5 topics that address key controversial issues that are relevant to communities across the board, and that would solve the issue, and then we could get discussions going and get a proper
conversation evolving from there. Excellent.
Going.
Excellent. Brother Rizwan, very brief.
I think the key is engagement. The Prophet said, he's not one of me who does not take part in his community. So do not isolate yourself from the community. I think the revert community must engage with the native communities and not isolate themselves, and don't just come.
What we're saying is that maybe if the reverts
Muharram, be there every Thursday, be there regularly, and question and challenge, because that also helps us who are within the community who are trying to reform the community.
Excellent. So, Brother Rizwan, thank you for that. Brother Rizwan has said engagement. Maybe when the reverts, so-called reverts, engage, they may end up eventually getting engaged. If I could use a little play on words. Brother Gulam, if you could finish off proceedings.
Just very briefly, that the point is, we've been knocking on the door since 1984, right? And all we're saying is that we ain't knocking no more. And you know what I mean? It's bringing the 4-4. So what I'm saying is, it's all good and well to say, why are you not doing this thing? But you can't take a bird, break its wing, and then say, why are you not flying? And you should now hop to me now. You should try to fly to me after I broke your wing. The point is that we've been trying for so long, and it takes the death of a black man in America now for this discussion to take place. Why are we the victims? Why are we at fault? Why are we the ones? Why should we need to go every single day? Why are you not coming to where we are every single day? Why is it we got to go to you? When we're the ones who have been, the apartheid's been put on and they've been excluded from all these things. That's unfair. That's unfair. You've got the knowledge. You are the Muhajirs, right? So you're the Ansar. We're the Muhajirs. And yet you're not treating us that way. The Muhajirs didn't. The Ansar came to the Muhajirs and helped them. So what I'm saying is that this is indicative of what's in also of the.
Just aware, I must hurry you, Ghulam. I'm aware of the time. I'm aware of the time. I must hurry you.
Solution still, however, it's important that I believe it's important that people like Brother Whitman, Brother Simon, all of us were involved in the conversation, which must continue long after the whole events in America. And it's just this is if it's a start, it's a positive start. Yes, there'll be different views and everything like that, but we love each other still. There's still strength among, and we still share, and we're of the Ahlul Bayt. And I believe it's each one to each one, and do unto others as you have done unto yourself.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Brother Ghulam, for your last remarks. Brother Rizwan, for your last remarks and your participation, and Brother Simon. It's been riveting. It's been exciting. And most of all, for myself, it's been a learning. So till next time on the talk show. Till next time. Remember to stay safe. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Shukran jazila.
Barakallahu feek.